Welcome to Life as a Sigma INFJ. Whether you are one or trying to better understand a distinguished soul in your life, this video is for you. The Sigma INFJ is a rare psychological archetype, an already uncommon personality type with an even more distinct twist. While traditional INFJs are known for their empathy, idealism, and deep insight, Sigma INFJs combine these traits with a strong sense of independence and detachment from societal norms. They are quiet strategists, inner rebels who don't seek attention, but naturally stand apart. Unlike alpha or beta social roles, Sigma INFJs operate outside the hierarchy altogether. They observe more than they speak, connect deeply but selectively, and often choose solitude over superficial connection. This makes them enigmatic, misunderstood, and quietly powerful. In this video, we will discuss the quiet language of depth. There's something quietly powerful about a person who doesn't rush to speak. In a world built on noise, constant commentary, opinions, and performances, those who communicate through silence stand out. And for Sigma INFJs, silence isn't a void. It's a language, a message, a decision. Many misunderstand it. They assume quiet means passive, shy, or unsure. But that couldn't be further from the truth. For Sigma INFJs, silence is never accidental. It's intentional. They're not at a loss for words. They're measuring the weight of each one, because they understand something most people don't. Not everything needs to be said, and not everyone deserves a front row seat to their inner world. Part 1. Observation over explanation. This tendency often begins early in life. Even as children, they noticed what others missed: the shifts in tone, the tension in a room, the unspoken dynamics between people. They grew up decoding emotions, reading between lines, and recognizing when speaking would change nothing. So they learned to observe, to reflect, to process internally. Silence became their strength. It allows them to take in more than just words. They notice body language, inconsistencies, energy shifts. While others talk over each other trying to be heard, Sigma INFJs listen deeply. And in that stillness, they gather insight. While others are proving their point, the Sigma INFJ has already understood the entire conversation, and the parts no one admitted. Part 2. Silence as a boundary. But this silence isn't just about perception. It's also about protection. Sigma INFJs have often been misunderstood, misread, or dismissed. They've been labeled as too quiet, too intense, or hard to read. They've opened up only to have their vulnerability mishandled, so they adapted. They stopped explaining themselves to people who didn't want to understand. They chose silence. Not because they had nothing to say, but because they knew who wouldn't listen. And when they retreat into quiet, it's not an escape, it's a recalibration. It's where they return to their center, where they process what others might not even notice. Their silence is thoughtful, purposeful, and sometimes healing. Part 3. The misunderstood relationship dynamic. In personal relationships, silence can be both misunderstood and magnetic. Some are drawn to the mystery, intrigued by the depth they sense but can't quite access. Others become frustrated, wanting more words, more clarity, and more emotional access. But the Sigma INFJ reveals themselves slowly, in layers, and only to those who've proven they can hold space without judgment. Silence is also how they create boundaries, not loud ultimatums or dramatic exits. Just distance, just stillness, just enough quiet to say, "This is where it ends." For those paying attention, the message is clear. For those who aren't, the message was never meant for them. Part 4. Quiet influence in a loud world. There's a misconception that the loudest voice holds the most power, that those who dominate the conversation win. But real influence isn't always loud. The Sigma INFJ shifts the room without saying a word. Their silence carries weight. It makes people reflect. It makes them wonder what isn't being said, and why. It invites introspection, both in themselves and in others. And when they do choose to speak, people listen. Because it's rare, because it's measured, because it means something. Their words don't come from a place of impulse, they come from depth. And that's why they resonate. In conflict, this silence can be disarming. They don't fight to be right. They don't argue to win. They simply observe, speak when necessary, and withdraw when it's not worth the energy. They know that silence in the right context ends more battles than shouting ever could. Part 5. Stillness as creativity and strategy. In their careers and creative work, silence fuels their ideas. They need space to think, to imagine, to create without interruption. They thrive in environments that respect stillness, where introspection is seen as strength, not flaw. They generate their best insights not in meetings or debates, but in quiet reflection, long walks, or solo hours with a notebook or screen. It's also worth noting that their silence isn't a punishment. It's not manipulative or passive-aggressive. It's not about withholding. It's about choosing peace over performance, clarity over chaos, intention over impulse. Those who value depth, who take time to understand, who are patient with stillness, those are the ones who get to see the richness beneath the quiet. Because beneath that unreadable expression, that calm demeanor, that silence, is a world most never access. Conclusion. Quiet as power, silence speaks. It speaks of boundaries, values, and self-respect. It speaks of observation, awareness, and insight. It speaks of someone who has spent years learning when to speak and when silence says more. To a Sigma INFJ, silence is their first language. It's a language not everyone understands. But for those who do, it's unmistakable. Being silent doesn't make them invisible. It makes them intentional. And that's not weakness. It's mastery. Let others fill in the blanks. Let them assume. Let them underestimate. The Sigma INFJ doesn't need to correct the narrative. They already know who they are. And that quiet confidence, it speaks louder than anything else ever could.